in every movie, we have a character that is presented that is there to act on behalf of the audience, right? And the audience's perspective on the story at hand.
Yeah.
Who do you think that character is in this movie?
So you're asking me who the character is in Mad Max Fury Road that's looking at the screen and thinking, holy shit. Because that's
basically
me as the audience. That's all I'm thinking the entire time as I'm watching this for the first time.
Yeah.
It might be Nux. Or maybe the wives. It could be the brides or the wives, because they are, like Zoe Kravitz's Toast character, for example, is kind of the voice of reason as we go through the film. She's the one that is always kind of breaking the bad news, or, we've only got so many bullets for this gun and so many bullets for this gun. So what are you guys going to do? And then kicking it back to our main characters to figure it out. And so, the wives and Nux are the ones always kind of digesting and giving those moments to let the plot breathe for a second. And kind of, giving some rationale and logic to an otherwise completely illogical and unrational situation of just traveling through the desert looking for a lush oasis of sorts. So maybe that, but that's a very good question. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
It's funny. I was just thinking about it right now, and it's hilarious because it just goes back to what I was saying. I think it's Max, because you're like, You literally answered the question yourself. You're like, who's just sitting there like strapped to a chair with their eyes open going, holy shit, that's Max. The entire movie. He's a passenger in his own film. It's insane.
You're right. Yeah.
And
quite literally.
Yeah. And it's so funny to notice that this time around. Like, I've watched this film a dozen times.
Wow.
And it never occurred to me how passive Max is in his own story for 2 hours. And so I think it's Max. I think literally everybody else gets all the ham, all the meat.
You're right.
And Max is the distant passenger, just kind of along for the ride.
Right. Just give me a motivation, you hacky fart.
Oh, okay, here's your motivation. You're looking for motivation. You want all the motivation.
That's lazy.
It got you this far.
Yeah, I think that is his arc, because I think in the first act and a half, act and 3/4, that's his whole thing, is he is a passenger, quite literally, as Furiosa is the driver, Nux is the driver. He's along for the ride. He's a prisoner for, a chunk of that. Like you said, strapped to the front saying, holy shit, as they're driving into a sandstorm, what are you guys doing? And then, he is forced to, or decide, makes a conscious decision to, by the third act, participate in the outcome of his own story. And, kind of take control and take charge and seek redemption for his own failures. Because, it was because of those failures that, and being a passenger, that, in his own story in previous films, that, other people lost their lives and he was haunted by his daughter and all of that. So that's his redemption. But he is, in fact, an ancillary character or a secondary character in this film. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is the audience for most of this movie. That's crazy. I never thought about that.
Yeah. One other thing I just realized right now, which I think is really interesting, is I'm thinking about it from a structural standpoint. And I think that because of the episodic nature of the way that George Miller tells the Mad Max stories, you said it before, it's like these aren't really sequential, like this happens after this in terms of 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all just stories from the wasteland, right? And they happen in all sorts of different time periods. So I think because of that, it's almost as though the structure of this movie is more akin to television than it is to film. Specifically, what I mean by that is it follows more of the Dan Harmon story circle, wherein a character sets out, things happen, and we end back where we belong, right? Having gone on a journey, as opposed to a traditional 3-act structure where the character is now this completely different person. Because although we do see a certain coming out of his shell with regards to the way that he is able to open up and basically regain his humanity and no longer be feral. The film ends with him just setting out to the wasteland on his own again. Like, we get back to the exact beginning of the story where he's just on his own and things happened. And from a 3-act structure standpoint, like, that happened to the people around him. But in terms of his specific arc, it's less an arc and more of a circle where he just ends up right where he started, having changed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they literally end up back at the Citadel again, right where they started. So
yeah, and
I also love that you referenced Dan Harmon's story circle and how he was able to actually visualize that on Rick and Morty with an actual story circle. I don't know if you ever saw that episode, but it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favorite episodes of Rick and Morty.